saw Springsteen when he came to Atlanta?
Yeah, the most recent show when he did
Whoa.
the yeah. We'll talk about it. I guess I've seen him 3 times.
You've seen him 3 times. Whoa. I think my dad has seen him he's probably seen Bruce maybe 7 times in his life.
Jealous.
Yeah. And one time he was up front and center, but for 2 hours before they started, they were just standing up. Yeah, hanging. My mom was like, oh my God, can we please go home?
Yeah,
but then they said it was one of the best concerts ever, of course.
Yeah, I have a good story from my first Springsteen experience.
Well, let's hear it. Let's start the ep. We're here with Drew Beskin, the best in the business. I've been thinking about that all morning, waiting to say it. Thanks for coming on the podcast, man. Round 2. Usually I don't do a whole lot of round 2s, but the last one we did was a year and a half ago. I didn't even live in Athens yet. We hadn't met in person. And then, you just put out this amazing EP called Garrett. I can't wait to get into it. Mm-hmm. But I will say, if you haven't listened to it yet, go give it a listen right now. All the songs are awesome. You really got so ambitious with each song. And I was so stoked listening to it for the first time. But let's start off with Bruce Springsteen's Tunnel of Love and any Bruce-related stories that we may have. I think it's interesting you picked this album of all of them. My dad got me Tunnel of Love 2020 maybe. Never knew, I think, almost any of the songs on it. And it kind of became a favorite for a little bit because it seems so different. It's almost it reminds me of his Revolver or something because each song is very different.
Yeah, and I would say, A, thank you for having me, and B, want to say I don't think we've really talked since your Athfest set and how magical that set was.
Oh man, thank you.
Even the way the weather was behaving during your set. Normally it's so hot that everyone's miserable, but the clouds it was just comfort set all together. Everyone was sounding great crowd. That was so cool. I can't wait to see the next band thing.
I appreciate it, man. Yep. Coming up, hopefully 11/11 in Atlanta. But yeah, thank you again for that.
The Boss, I'm a massive Springsteen fan, and I even love it's a great record. The Seeger Sessions with it's this, I think he released it maybe before Magic, but he's doing all these old Pete Seeger traditional tunes. It's covers American Land and Pay Me My Money Down, which is a great record. But I loved his most recent record too, the Letter to You.
Yeah,
fantastic record from top to bottom, and it's always so it's a general statement, and it's not really fair to put that on someone else, especially because you don't know what anyone goes through. But in general, once you hit 50, you don't really expect people. I mean, there's exceptions like Dylan and Springsteen and Tom Waits and stuff like that. But Letter to You is top. It's just a crusher. But I love Tunnel of Love because it's got some experimentation on there, especially the time in the 80s with a lot of the programming. A track that I can never get enough of is the title track, Tunnel of Love, with all the, I guess, keyboard Moog synth stuff and the beats, and it kind of, Springsteen having that sort of a little dash of Prince to it, especially since those are kind of the big juggernauts of the 80s. And I think Tunnel of Love, if I have this correct in my memory, I think it was the follow-up to Born in the USA. Well, I guess Born in the USA before or after Nebraska?
It was after.
Yeah, so I think it was Nebraska, Born in the USA, and Tunnel of Love. And this is technically a solo record. It's not an E Street Band record, except for I think there were a bunch of E Street players on there. And it was a divorce record. Right. But also Meeting Patty record as well.
Sorry about the train, everyone, if you're hearing it.
So there's some amazing love songs on there. One of my favorite songs of all time is Brilliant Disguise.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
a great one.
I've covered that a few times, at solo acoustic shows, but it just cuts so deep, and no one writes a lyric like Springsteen, and this record dances around, there's every version of the Boss on there, even the first the first track on there. And it seems all my friends' bands, like they always go to Tougher Than the Rest, which is a great tune. But that's been like,
not my favorite.
But it's been
honest.
a lot of my friends, that's like their that's the song that they champion the most, which is a great song.
Of him in general or this album?
I think in general, I have a lot of Americana friends like think that one is like just like that is like the gold standard.
Whoa.
Because it's like
Interesting.
leans a little Americana, but it does still have that 80s tinge. And
Is it Spencer Thomas you're talking about?
he's definitely one of those.
That was the first person I thought of.
Spencer definitely loves that song. A lot of folks I used to play with, like a lot of like Nashville scene folks, whenever you go on Instagram and they're showing Springsteen, that's the song they pick.
Interesting.
But Tunnel of Love, the song itself is just, it's like 5 minutes of just, it's a Prince tune mixed with Springsteen. It's it's like Prince mixed with Don Henley, Mike Campbell, Boys of Summer type stuff. It's so good.
I need to go back and listen to it. It's been a while, but the one that always stuck out to me, honestly, was Valentine's Day. That song is like a real tearjerker and such a way to end the album too.
And I always,
see what else was on it.
I wasn't, if I wasn't alive, when was this released? 87?
This was released 87. Yep.
Yeah, that was when I was born. Same year as Sign of the Times, my favorite Prince record.
Oh, okay.
But so you got to think about like the time there. I remember though, like, I heard the singles before I bought the record, like on CD as a kid, and I always thought the track listing was a little interesting. The title track is so buried like on side B, like near the end of the record, where to me it always sounded like that should open up this record. But then again, it is the title track.
Yeah. Now I got to go back and listen to it, because after looking at those songs, a lot of them I don't even really remember how they go. I do like Walk Like a Man.
Great song.
Tunnel of Love, like you said. Is it Used Cars? Was that on this one?
I think so. And speaking of Spencer, he like this like
Dude,
vibe, the visual vibe. That's like
the cover is absolutely
like he just
Spencer
likes the
Thomas.
classic car. Springsteen loves the classic car. Spencer is this perfect mix of Springsteen, Zevon, and Jackson Browne, and
that's right.
And he plays in that realm very respectfully.
Shout out to Spencer. He was kind of the reason why I started doing this in person, because I was going to do it in person. I just needed someone to kind of like, I just needed to commit to it. And then he like wouldn't let me off the hook. He was like, "When are we doing it, bro? When's it happening?" I'm like, "Oh, it's coming." And then like a week later, he'd be like, "I'm ready when you are." Yeah. And I was like, "All right, I guess I'm doing this." And then ever since then, it's been way more fun to do them in person. So shout out to Spencer for getting me to do this. But yeah, man, let's talk about the EP. It's called Garrett.
Yeah.
And it features a stuffed goat on the cover. I heard there's a very sweet story behind why it's called Garrett and why the goat is on the cover. Would you mind sharing?
Of course. So, I have an 18-month-old daughter named Lila, and that's first child, and very could go on and on about how special that is. And during the time of these songs, never really like making an album or an EP, I was just kind of enjoying being a dad, and she was kind of napping, and I was kind of softly playing some music, and I wrote the first song, Nosedive, which doesn't sound like, and if you hear the chord version, that doesn't sound, it's a rock crazy song, but I wrote it very much in like a little McCartney like acoustic situation.
I wrote down, this is what I wish Paul McCartney would put out now.
Yeah, it's kind of like his Fireman type stuff. But I remember while she was sleeping, just kind of softly writing Nosedive really quickly, and then writing most of what will be Revenge Body, like in the time of a nap. But I still like, none of the songs on the record are directly about her. I am starting to explore writing songs about something that personal, and I'm excited to like chip away at that. But we had those two songs, or I had those two songs, and Revenge Body, I knew I wanted to be like a crazy rocker, and then Nosedive, I wanted to be a crazy rocker, and then Revenge Body, I knew I wanted to have like kind of like the Tunnel of Love elements, or at least my version of the Tunnel of Love elements, with some beats and like a little Zach Crookness, if you will.
If you will.
And wrote those, and then the 3 other tracks on the record. One is a song called Clockwork, which was probably the first song I wrote after the Sunshine record came out. And that was just kind of like, it kind of happened. It was a very Elliott Smith tune. I wanted it to be, and I'm getting off topic, but I'll get back to why it's called Garrett. I wanted it to be this like acoustic thing, and I wanted to kind of like McCartney and do like kind of like a McCartney, play all the instruments. And I hit up Nate Nelson because I just never worked with him before, and he's always been a buddy of mine. Back when I had a band, my band, the District Attorneys, and Nate's band, White Violet, we were kind of playing around the same time. I've always known Nate and really respected Nate, and wanted to work on a track with him. And we went in and did it. I played all the instruments. Turns out not a great drummer, and the direction was not really where the song needed to go. So then I hit up Gideon and Elijah to come, and we completely changed it. We had Bennett join, and then all around this time I had those 2 songs that I mentioned, and then I wanted to get in with the Sunshine, and we just kind of, here in this house, there's a track on the record called Never Even Listening that we just kind of did in the house here. And then there was another song that I did without the guys with my old band. And it's just this collection of songs. And I mentioned the song Clockwork because if anyone like intently listens to my stuff or like thinks about parallels between songs, this EP has a lot of what I would call like, maybe not habits, but like tricks that I've been like being like, whether it's like a chord move or maybe like kind of a lyrical phrasing or a melody thing that I was still kind of high on from the first Sunshine record. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to use this as a way to kind of like put a bow on the stage of my writing, as well as like maybe adding some new elements and still like getting comfortable with like doing 2 drum takes over the same track and like getting some like beats on there and like seeing like how far I might want to push it for the next record. And it started to feel like, okay, this is a great place to like incubate like an EP, because to me it really feels like an in-between thing. And back to my daughter, she preparing having a child, and like I had a teddy bear growing up that I remember, and I think my mom still has it, and something that was like stuffed animals as a kid, but there's that one you associate with,
of course.
And I was very fixated, probably to an unhealthy degree, of like finding the perfect one for her. And then she as a baby, when babies cry, she would cry where she kind of almost sounded like a goat, and we'd go, oh, goat baby, and it was just kind of funny like that. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get a stuffed goat. And I found what I thought was like a really like, this is a stuffed goat that could like that would last longer than a few months, like maybe something that could stand the test of time and be her teddy bear or stuffed animal. And it was called Garrett the Goat. And when I was wrapping up the EP, I was thinking about titles, and sometimes I already know what's going to happen. Sometimes it's the song title, and for an EP, I didn't want it to be a song title because then that just feels like a single situation. And then Garrett just like felt like, me fixating on stuff, like kind of there's some parallels there. And also it just sounded like a very like Blind Melon 90s type thing. So it's definitely a tribute to like the daughter stuff, even though the songs, I would say none of them are necessarily about her, but those will come.
But a couple of them were birthed during a nap period.
Absolutely. That's,
which is awesome.
Yeah, that 2 hours, if we get the 2 hours, is usually when the songwriting can happen, if either then or very, very late at night.
Right. When she happens to be finally sleeping. How do you feel like your perspective on your own music and maybe just musical career in general has changed now that you're a father, if at all?
Well, I mean, a few records ago, I released an album called Problematic for the People, and at the time, that was just in my mind, like I wanted to wrap up everything because I'm about to get married and step into that part of adulthood, and
another transition.
Yeah, and maybe leave foolish things behind. And then, I mean, that was before Tommy and Elijah and I had even really met Gideon. Like, we started working together, and that kind of lit a fire under me in terms of like, well, you know, you can always create and write songs. I have no real desire to tour at all. I mean, if something blew up and it made sense, like to bring the family or something like that, maybe might consider. But I have 3 little dogs that I love just as much as, you know, anything. And I just like being at home, and I love playing a few shows a year. I love going out and playing shows, but ultimately I've learned through this that I love recording, and I will never stop loving to write songs. And I want to, I'm not sure if you feel this way about it, but, and how old are you?
26.
26.
About to be 27.
Well, there you go. That's a special one.
Yeah.
I started making records or recording, I was like 22 or something like that, and didn't know what I was doing. You know, didn't know what sounds I wanted, didn't know what, like, even understanding listening to my own voice or my own songs. And I go back to some of my earlier band recordings. I still like them, but they don't sound like, this could have been tighter for whatever reason, whether it's guitar tone or just not really thinking about. You just learn
what you really want.
And I think I might have sacrificed some of the stuff I really love, you know, like this, like Tunnel of Love, that production, or the Prince stuff, or just pop. Like, I love pop music maybe just as much as I love Pavement and you know, Wilco and just like rock and roll stuff. But for the first few bands I was in, it was like a 4-piece or 5-piece. We're just going to rock this out. We're not going to go in and get string arrangements. Not going to get too crazy with the vocals. And it was good enough because it's just rock and roll. It just sounds like that. And then, and I think a lot of that was because of my comfort zone. And the more experiences I have with recording, the more comfortable I feel with it. I would say for this EP especially, I know there's one song, the song Clockwork, where in the past, if I had like booked a session and recorded something, because the original Clockwork sounded fine, it wasn't bad, it just wasn't it. And I think maybe in the past I would have been like, well, that's just, it is what it is, and you'll get on the next one. And now I'm like being a little more precious with the songs. Like, I think going forward, I'm probably just going to release some singles for a while before I like make the record and this album that I'm kind of starting to kind of have like 17 songs I'm kind of like working through it. And of course there's always songs that are like kind of coming in and taking their place. And I, you know, where I am today and with this EP, and being able to go work with Nate and also go work with Tommy, and being able to work with both of them at the same time, and just the fact that it's Athens, and like the people that we know and the access we have just by knowing who the players are, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get the sounds we want. And I think when I was younger, I didn't think that's maybe something, not necessarily I didn't deserve, like, oh, boo-hoo me, but it's like, I now feel like I have more of a language to say what I want. And I have more of a musical vocabulary to be like, instead of being like, I want this to sound like Pavement, it's like, here's this section, and here's like, I've also been doing this trick lately where when I write the song, I kind of just demo it, and then I kind of leave it alone until I go in the studio to really just capture that first instinct thing. Because I'm trying to like balance the first instinct stuff, which I think is always the best, with let's plan out and like make this something that you will want to listen to 5 years from now and go like, oh, that was pretty good.
Wow. Yeah, that's a tough thing to balance, to be able to keep that purity of something that seemed almost stream of consciousness and still meld that with this timelessness, almost like very intentional feeling, which I feel like for me, I obsess over one thing until it's done for me. And then I kind of allow like a Tommy or someone producer who has a fresh perspective on it to kind of take it in a lot of different directions and then kind of use that initial demo as like a vibe check for what it ends up becoming once you take it to the studio.
And I'm the type of person that gets, if I demo it too much, or if we do a rough, like I have friends who will like, especially in the past, like, let's go do a demo session for a weekend and put it down. Then I'm going to become obsessed with that. And then I'm,
right,
and
when
then
it's too demoed out.
Yeah. And I try not to listen to rough mixes and final mixes too much because I definitely get married to certain sounds. And like, I've been like in the past and like, this sounds great, but doesn't capture that feeling that when we had that first rough mix. And I feel like a big part of that was, and again, a lot of this is attributed to Tommy, that, you know, you basically, I used to like write the full album and then go and record within a week or two. And then you go in and go like, let's knock out these drums. Let's knock out this bass as soon as we can. So then the rest of this time that we have scheduled, we can get everything else done. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't work for me, I realize. And like what works for me is one song at a time, even if it is from a record, but like one song in the studio. Like it used to be like, hey, we're in the studio.
That's how you did Somewhere Sideways,
right? Yes. And these EP songs, I think, I don't know how long the first like recording went back, but it's been I think I've been working on the EP, you know, on and off for like a year or a year and a half, just kind of like getting this collection of songs together. There's a song on the record called It's Hard to Walk Away If You Never Move. Mm-hmm. And that song was literally written as an accident/exercise. We canceled the show for COVID reasons, like a Bro Aces show where the Sunshine was going to be opening. And
oh yeah, I remember that.
And because of that, I had that weekend where I was supposed to play music and there's that gaping hole. And then, so the guys in Bro Aces were in my original band, my first band, the District Attorneys, where the drummer, he does the Liam Gallagher stuff. He puts on a wig and he does that. He's a great drummer. He's very like, he loves Carter Beauford. He loves rock stuff. He likes to play a lot and play a lot of fills. And when we canceled the show, we had that open date, or like just that open date in my soul. I was like, hey, I have an idea. Since we can't play a show, how about I write a song and we go and record it? And I hit up Nate and was like, can we because we did, I think, 3 songs with Tommy and 2 songs with Nate. And then Nate mixed the whole thing. And Tommy put some overdubs on, I think, one of those 2 songs that Nate did. But basically, it was like, hey guys, let's instead of playing the show, let's book this day with Nate, and I'll send you all a song. And we're just gonna go in and spend a day doing it the way that I've started to like doing it. Because that old band, we used to do it the whole like, here's the record, we have a week to do this, we have this budget,
right?
Let's get it in or not. Kind
of the old school.
But I thought for that, like I wrote a song specifically for my drummer, because or for Chris Wilson, who is in the Bro Aces District Attorney stuff, and I love his drumming, and he doesn't get to record that much. He's a dad. He's got a regular job. I was like, I want to be satisfying for him as well. So I like wrote a song thinking, what can he unleash on and feel happy about, but also something that he can unleash on where I won't be like controlling. Mm-hmm. And we get into arguments, which we always do because we like to bicker, but I want it to be like, wrote the song, now you just go nuts and I'm going to like it no matter what, because it's a fresh song and trying to capture that spontaneity. Because, since then I've been playing that song solo acoustic, and it's like, it's probably there's 2, that and Clockwork are the ones that I can play solo. The other 3 don't lend itself well to the Jeff Tweedy rule of if a song, if you play it by yourself, then the song stands. So like, I didn't follow that, but like I love Jeff Tweedy, but like don't always have to. I'm sure there are a lot of Prince songs.
I'm sure there's some Wilco songs that are like that, you know?
Yeah.
Someone like that.
That's true.
The Whole Love.
Yeah.
There's some weird songs on there.
For sure. I kind of dropped off of Wilco after maybe after Wilco the album. Star Wars. Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah. Schmilko was after that, and Schmilko was pretty good.
I know, and everyone, I just haven't gotten. There's so much music out there. I haven't gotten to it. But I had a huge Wilco phase. My favorite.
Got the flag right up there.
I've seen them so many times. Summer Teeth and Sky Blue Sky are probably my two favorites. But
Sky Blue Sky is great.
But my real favorite is the Mermaid Avenue Volume 1
Really?
stuff. Yeah, I love that's like just such a special record, and that whole story where it's not really their songs.
Right,
it's like it's the lyrics, and they do the whole Bernie Taupin thing, or the Bernie Taupin Elton John thing, where it's like lyrics first.
Oh yeah,
music to these like lyrics that you didn't write, which I always thought was fascinating.
Yeah, they did like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. Yeah,
I never listened to the whole first album. I only know California Stars.
California Stars that's one of my wife's favorite songs.
Yeah,
but it's a great song. It's like one of the ultimates. It's probably in the middle for that record. There's so many great tracks, and all the Billy Bragg tracks are great too. It's such a great record.
I need to go back.
It's a great driving record. I went to school in Indiana, and I went to Bloomington or Indiana University. And it's like 8-hour drive from Atlanta, and that was one of like the few records I would just like play all the way through. And it's such a great record.
Nice. Yeah, my favorite. I mean, it's hard not to say Yankee Hotel Foxtrot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's amazing. But if I couldn't pick that one, maybe I would go with. I might go with Sky Blue Sky as well.
And my buddy Philip Brantley, legend, who played bass on It's Hard to Walk Away.
That's right.
Because he's in Broasis as well, and he and I have we have Broasis practice today.
Oh, nice.
We're playing someone's birthday party.
That's right.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, Maddie, if you're listening,
happy
shout
birthday.
out. Happy birthday! It's her birthday today.
Yeah. And we're.
That's so funny. Yeah. You guys are playing that. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker. Luckily, my wife will never listen to this, but she's just like, "Will you play the Broasis birthday party?" I'm like, "Yes." Like, I don't like any opportunity to do
the Broasis stuff.
To play something I'm always down.
That's awesome, man. I would love to see a Broasis show. I've only seen Sunshine Beatles, which was phenomenal, and I don't think we've talked about it too much, but that was such a great show for me personally, just because it made me realize I never, like, as much as I love the Beatles, that you don't get to hear the songs live.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's one cover in the midst of like a set, but this was like 12, 13, 14 songs of theirs, all hits. I mean, they all are hits anyway, but it was magical. You guys crushed it. And it was like I was watching the Beatles. It was like the closest I'll get, even though I did see Paul McCartney, but it's just different because, it's more intimate, and Paul's playing, the real Paul's playing songs, some that I don't know that are newer. And I'm like, come on.
Well, I've seen Paul a few times, and honestly, I get more excited for his solo tunes than when he whips out the Beatles stuff sometimes.
Really?
I mean, I can hear Jet and Let Me Roll It like every day and be super happy. But, there's those songs that he has to play. And when we did the Sunshine Beatles thing, that's what kind of, Tommy and Elijah and Gideon are they're such big Beatles fans as well. And that's kind of like one of the big reasons why we gel well, because we have that language, music's a universal language. But it was such a passion project for us, and hopefully we will do something like that again, because it was really, really fun. And I've, back to like my future, or what I think about like my quote unquote career. Usually when I put together a show, especially with like a band, I like to kind of stack like, do everything I can to make sure that the show will be as fulfilling as possible, because I never know, like, I'm not planning on going on tour. Like, I try to treat every show like the last. Like, we're doing a Broasis show in Atlanta at Terminal West, and the Sunshine's going to open up for that.
Cool. When is that?
It's going to be Black Friday. I think that's November 24th.
Oh, wow.
Friday, November 24th.
Nice.
And so, like, if I do, and the Broasis thing birthed from, I had a second band called Party Dolls. I wanted to release the record, and we had a we did Smithsonian Bar, but we played our album, then we did the Oasis thing after, because people will definitely come to see an Oasis cover band. They might not come to see a band that they've never heard of before, but they'll come and they might accidentally see some original music and enjoy that. And then I get to scratch 2 itches. And I don't necessarily, I love what we did at 40 Watt with Lighthearted, because I love those guys. I love seeing them do the Coldplay thing, but I love doing the Oasis stuff. But for me, like, I need to also scratch that songwriter itch too and play some of my songs. So if I can do both of that in one night, selfishly, that checks all the boxes, and then I'm good for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you say selfishly, but I think a lot of people also enjoy that. I mean, for me, that would be one of the sickest lineups ever. It's just your solo stuff, and then Sunshine Beatles, which is what I did get to see maybe 6 months ago. You did that show, maybe longer.
I feel like it's a year.
Like it was last year.
I have no idea anymore. Everything is, time is construct.
It's all relative, yeah. I had a couple questions about, the new EP and in relation to the rest of your discography. I mean, this just to me is like personally right up my alley, and I love the album you put out last year. But I love how I just, like I said earlier, I love how much you commit to every bit of the song. Like, the second half of Nosedive it's not just maybe we have a little jam here. It's like suddenly it's a new part that you just pedal to the metal, like you went for it, and every song has those moments. Did you have any specific intentions with these songs? Because like I said, going back to committing, another example would be like Garrett, like you're almost whispering sometimes. It's almost ASMR, you really go for these experimental moments on these songs. So was that always the intention? Did you have a mantra, if you will, going into this?
I think for me, and I'm either 36 or 37. I can't remember. I'm sorry. But I think I'm 36. But I feel like, not a boo-hoo thing, but I see y'all, and you guys are so confident with recording. And my confidence is not so great. But over time, I mean, it took me a minute, but I'm starting to get really comfortable in the studio and starting to get comfortable with singing and what I want to hear, how I would enjoy my voice, taking new directions, Revenge Body specifically, I want it to be sweet, but I also didn't want to project, which of course lends itself to trouble when you're trying to play it live and you're trying to because if you sing the way that you normally project, then it kind of hurts some, but we're figuring it out. But yeah, I think it's just the continual quest to kind of, if you're recording, songwriting's great, but if you're recording, if it's not better than your last thing, or at least you don't think you're evolving, then what's the point? I could write the same type of, I do have, again, I wouldn't say they're bad habits, but they are habits, and I recognize them, and I don't want to run away from anything, but I want to continue evolving. And with, Nosedive, I saw Freeman Leverett for the first time last night.
Yeah.
And that was
great.
It was crazy. It was just him solo acoustic, but great voice. But it made me think a lot of made me think a lot of Bee Gees stuff, especially him acoustic. But the way I write songs in my head, and there's sometimes I sit down and pick up an acoustic guitar and write a song like that, or I'll sit down at the piano. But usually it's I'm just kind of humming, and then I keep humming, and then or it's a word, or it's a lyric, or I look into my notes, and I'm it's just kind of chasing me around all day, and that could be something that's saved later for another song, or I'll take a walk and I'll just keep thinking of something. I'll just kind of, I like to use this as an example, but not many people get. You ever seen the movie The Fifth Element?
What is that one? Is that
That's
Bruce
Willis?
Bruce Willis?
It's just, I made
Does he go back in time or some sort of?
No, that's 12 Monkeys.
That's what I'm thinking.
Fifth Element is one of the most enjoyable science fiction romps. It's the first it's probably it's not the first Chris Tucker movie, because there was Friday, but Chris Tucker before Rush Hour, before he really blew up. It's super funny, but it's also just great action. Mila Jovovich. But there's a scene where I won't go too deep into it, but it's like this little piece of a hand of an extra, like of a found alien, and they have the technology to like take that hand and build the rest of the body.
Okay.
And then that's where like Mila Jovovich pops up like from that. And I always kind of look at songwriting that way. Like you have this thing and like it doesn't necessarily have to start from the beginning of the intro riff. It could be it could be from a bridge that you want to like build something around, or just a title that you're really into. Like Revenge Body's a title. I don't say Revenge Body, but I wrote
that title is so sick too. I love that.
I wrote the music and it just kind of felt like that title, and I was kind of humming, and like lyrics came later, but like I always just like, that's the title of the song. And I don't even know, I forgot where we're going with that, but it's just, yeah, I guess.
You get one section of a song and it's like the seed that sprouts
the Freeman thing. So I asked him after the show last night because a lot of his songs like loop.
Right.
Or like
he takes his time.
Right. He takes his time and he'll repeat it. And that's kind of like, it reminded me of like when I'm obsessing over a song that I'm writing and it's just like stuck in my head, and then I'll play it nonstop. And usually like I'm one of those people, and I know everyone's different, but like I never forget a lyric to my song, because by the time I've recorded it, like it's already beaten in me. It's like part of my DNA. It's hard for me to remember other people's songs, but for my stuff, like it's a part of me. So because there's so much like hammering it in, and like I asked him, like, are these like these performances, like, are you like, do you know how long you're going for? Or do you lay in the moment, like kind of dictate? And he's like, for the most part, it's, it's all playing out, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
But like, it just reminded me of like the incubate phase of starting a song, where it starts as this one piece and it just kind of haunts you until you find a place for it to be, and then it like can release. And then like, of course, like when you're in the mixing phase and like, you wake up in the morning and your own song stuck in your head, it's like, okay, like it's kind of, you're almost cursed, because like, I like it, but I don't want it. I don't want it to like haunt me, like be in my brain. And it's like, and you're just kind of like, you want to put a bow on it and you want to like finish it. So then you go on to the next one, and it's almost like sick, like a drug addict, because I'm complaining about it, but you always want to chase that feeling too.
Whoa. Yeah, that's so true. It is weird when you end up writing something that, like you said, haunts you, and like the rest of the night you're trying to go to bed and that one thing keeps happening. But it's kind of interesting when you're in that phase and the song's not done. Like specifically for me with lyrics, what ends up happening is I'll be like in bed and I have trying to work on that song all day, and then it's looping in my mind while I'm trying to sleep, and then all of a sudden one lyric comes up and I like stand up and like go to my phone and write it down quick.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the next morning I'm like, this is trash. I can't do that, But sometimes it's weird. The song, like it's another being, and it's letting you know when it's ready to like give you the next piece. And for me, I feel like I'm a slave to that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like once it comes knocking on the door, like I can't not answer.
Yeah, I do love a song that that's written within 10 minutes, or like the best. I love when that happens.
The best.
I love when that happens, but a lot of times it's like it'll just kind of sit in my notes until it's ready to be done, and it's not going to be done until it's done. I'm not going to force it, but then again, like whenever that time like if I did it a different day, if I chose to pick that song and fix it a different day, it could be a completely different song. It probably would be a different song, which is kind of weird considering that like
on the day you open it up.
Yeah, and like how you're feeling that day and where you want to take that melody and lyric. Because for the most part, I'm usually just melody person first, and then everything else kind of like comes through. But it's different every time. But yeah, it's just like, it's all about the obsession, I guess.
Yeah, Tony Hunlow told me to treat it like a painting.
Yeah.
Most people never start a painting and finish it the same day they start it. They put it somewhere and then they come back to it. It's like, I'm trying to embrace that more, but it requires patience.
And I'll even do like I have some songs I'm saying on where I know all the music. I know at least I know the title and the tagline of the chorus, and it's just kind of waiting for me for whenever I have the time to like go and finish that thing. And I know it will get finished. And that's kind of like the first Sunshine record and this record, and this EP, like the songs like started narrowed down, going like, well, this is a half written song, but I know I'm going to finish it, and it will be finished when it's finished. Mm-hmm. And again, it's that confidence thing, like knowing, okay, this is ready to go. And as soon as I think it's ready to go, then I want to hit up Tommy and say, right, let's do this thing.
Let's make it happen.
Like I have a lofty goal, but I do have a song that's just like, I have the music, I have the title, I have the melody. I haven't finished it yet, but soon, and I'm hoping to finish it hopefully by the end of the month, and then hopefully I can tie down Tommy, Elijah, and Gideon, and we can record it. And I would like to release something by November. I'm putting it out in the universe now. Hopefully that actually happens, but I could not do it. But that is like something I'm kind of like circling around, this song that I think when it's done will be good, because I don't at this point. I don't like write a song and not use it, because if I'm not into it, why would I finish it? Why would I even keep that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just stoked when I finish a song in general. Yeah. The idea of not putting it out is insane, although now recently, because Tommy is so busy, mm-hmm. and I want to work with him, mm-hmm. it's like, I had 3 songs ready to go before you heard this newest tune over the last weekend,
which is wonderful.
Thank you, man. I'm excited for people to hear that whenever it comes out. But I had like 3 songs that I was pretty sure one of them I was gonna do with him, and then the other 2 I really liked that would be backups in case mm-hmm. they were like, you know what, we should do this one instead, because I liked all of them. And then like 2 weeks before, I wrote the one that you ended up hearing, and I feel like I'll always have that recency bias. And it's kind of interesting because that recency bias for like a new song can end up pivoting your journey of where you could have been going. You know what I mean? Because mm-hmm. now I want to write songs or record songs that are more similar to what we just did, mm-hmm. whereas the other 3 are a little bit more Beatlesy leaning. Mm-hmm. And had I done one of those, I might have just kept going down that track. And now that, just simply because I happened to write the song and it happened to be 2 weeks before I got into the studio, I was like, I guess we're going this direction now. So do you feel like there's been anything in your life where simply because of timing, it put you on a completely different trajectory?
Yeah, for releasing music or just making music? Or?
Yeah, I mean, anything related to music.
Absolutely. Maybe. Like, I had this planned for myself. Again, that Problematic for the People, 3rd record, be done with it. And I'm very proud of that record. But then Tommy, Elijah, Gideon, or Tom, I didn't know Gideon at the time, but I was like, hey, I wrote a song, and you all are my buddies, and I love what y'all do, and let's just hang out and do it. Right. And just one song, like just for fun. I wrote it real quick, and no big deal. And we did it, and then I was like, I love this. Let's just keep going. Because again, for those, the 2 records, I am very proud of the first solo record I did with David Barbie. And then
shout out David Barbie. Go listen to that episode.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was a fun one.
And then the second record I did with David, I'm proud of maybe 4 of those songs. And I think, again, this whole like one song at a time thing, and there's stuff on there that I like, but I just came to the session with 11 songs, going like, here's 11 songs ready to go. And it's kind of like, then after, like, there's only 4 songs that really mean much to me, because I didn't have time to really go like, well, which song really belongs and stuff. Like, mm-hmm. Now it's this whole one song at a time thing. And I think that's kept me, it's kept me more focused. It's kept me knowing that, like, when I go in the studio and I write a song, I'll make it count. And I did a song with Annie recently that I'm saving, but it was definitely ended up just being a demo because, funny story, big fan of Annie. I've worked with Annie a few times, and
Annie Leaf. She
Annie
rules.
Leaf. Check out her new record. She's one of my favorite people, and I wanted to do something that's just me and her, and went there, and I had a little bit of a cold, so I stopped by CVS and to grab like the Dayquil NyQuil thing, but they was only in the double pack, and one is orange, and that's the daytime, and then one is red, which is the nighttime. And orange and red kind of look alike.
Yeah,
it used to be
similar.
it used to be crazy green and red, and that's how you knew the difference. I wasn't paying attention, and I just and when I do the quill, I usually just like just chug, because I can figure out I can. It's around a shot and a half of the quill, and then
they're not pills. They're
I like it to go down my throat and course through my veins to get it right there. And I was taking the Dayquil, but I looked down, and it was actually NyQuil at like 11 a.m.
You're like,
and I just had
shit.
a coffee and then the NyQuil. And I was like, and I just did it, and I walked up. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be weird today.
Yeah, you're gonna see shit crawling on the walls.
Yeah, but yeah, we did that, and I just over time, like again, like our relationship and a relationship with everyone in this house and everyone, like everyone's making such great music. There's I would love to work with David again. I would love to work with Drew Vandenberg, who's one of my, closest friends, but also. And I love working with Nate, and I love working with Matt, but also like Tommy's my guy.
Yeah.
And I want to be able, and Annie, and like there's all these choices, and you start to, when you enjoy the records that they make on their own or with other people, you start thinking like when you're plotting your own songs, like what's the best, how do you, like a film or something. I've always, really much look up to you for, I couldn't act because I can barely even talk, and I get super nervous in front of a camera. But I've always wanted to like write a script. I have ideas, but I've never like been married to an idea, which is why I like writing songs, because it's just this own little mini movie thing.
Yeah.
And then when you're casting like the sounds and like how you're presenting this, like it's just this miniature thing that it's a world that you can peek into for like 2 minutes. I guess to answer your other question, like most of the songs on the EP are long or longer than I used to be into, because I used to like 2 minute songs, 2.5 minute songs.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because I love stuff like that. Like I haven't ran in forever, and I hope to get back into running, but I like repeat songs, like fast, like pop songs. Like I have friends who like to run to Achilles' Last Stand by Led Zeppelin. That's 8 minutes, because they just want to stay in that gung, 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 gung,
right.
That drives me crazy. And I'm kind of like, great, on the next. Or I hear something, I want to hear it 50 times. Like I want to repeat. So that's why I usually do like the short thing, because that's the type of music I like. But with the Garrett EP and those songs, it was originally I had a few like other EP titles. One was going to be called "Take Care of What You Wish For," which is a line that pops up in 2 of the songs, and then just like a play on "Be Careful What You Wish For,"
right.
because take care, like these things that you want, like not to get sappy or anything, but I've always wanted to have a child, and you never know what that would be like, but of course you assume that you will love this child, and of course when that happens, of course your expectations are completely blown, and it's almost like overwhelming. But versus like be careful what you wish for, but
right.
but if you take care, like these things that you say that you want, these things, like if you have these life goals for your career or for your personal life, and then you get it, like it's important to like be precious about that, and not always go, okay, I got this, like what's the next thing, or like what's my next, like like always like be present in the moment, which is something that is hard for me, and something that I've always something like almost like a daily affirmation to like enjoy, like we only get this one chance to like live and do these things that we want to do, and it's such a privilege, and to be able to chase your own passions, even if it's like what we do when we're not working. like you find that time for it. So if I'm staying up till 3 a.m. because I want to write this song because I can't do it during the day, then like I need to make it count, and I'm not going to half-ass it, I guess. But I was maybe going to call it that. I was going to maybe call it outros, because every single song was starting to have like a crazy outro, which is pretty heady for me. But I was enjoying that and just trying to find a way to like really make the whole thing coherent. But
Well, I love that it's, it is an EP and it's 5 songs, but it does have this album like quality to it.
And like, what's an album these days? Like, in sometime, like with Problematic for the People and especially Somewhere Sideways, Same as You, which singles, I mean, these aren't things that are going up the charts, but like Somewhere Sideways, Same as You, any of those songs I've been happy to release as a single, because they're all completely different from each other, and they all mean so much to me. And I want to feel like that for every song I do, where like I don't care which song you hear, like that there's intention with every single one. Whereas I think I got around the first record, but the second record, there's maybe 4 or 5 songs where it's like you just put that in because you wanted album filler. And I know I did that, and I know I didn't maybe write the best. Again, I love the sound of the record. I think it is the sound of someone who didn't know what he wants in the studio. And one of the brilliance of David Barbie and Chase Park and his method, not that he has one method, he has plenty, is that he captures the artist, like what they are in the moment, and he's presenting that, which is great. But if you're me, who is not necessarily like prepared or not really confident singing or anything like that, like it could be like you're capturing me because I'm so indecisive. But so much has happened since then, and I feel like I am getting more confident. And Revenge Body, Tommy had me pick up some Street Box for him when I was in Atlanta. I was like, we were just texting. He was like, "Would you mind picking this thing up for me?" I was like, "Not at all." And I grabbed it and I like looked at it. I was like, "I'm going to write a song that uses this. I don't know what this thing is. It looks cool. It's called Street Box. It looks like it makes some cool noises. Like, I'm going to write something for that. I'm sure it makes beats." And then I wrote the music for Revenge Body. It was tapping my feet. I was like, I bet that's the Street Box song. And since I already told myself it was going to happen, it's like, Tommy got the Street Box song. Let's do it.
The Street Box song. That's awesome.
And it was perfect. There's not that. We tried to put a lot of drums onto it. Like Gideon did like a drum take on top of it, and he did a bunch of percussion. And then he did this thing with these floor toms where he does these floor tom solos. And we tried it all. I was like, take everything out but the floor toms, and that's the best part of the track to me. And when we were mixing, I was like, Nate was like, he was hadn't quite. I was like, they need to be loud. He's like, what do you mean loud? And I was like, Paul Simon. Like he's like, got it, and he mixed it like, and it was that out the ending of Revenge Body, like the last like. When the song ends and it's like the outro section, that's like my favorite like piece of music that I like have, like or at least that's how I feel like right now, and which was always the goal to end on like always end on a great note and end like feeling like I feel like I've leveled up, at least for me. And knowing that like I can't really go back now, and like it needs to be better than Revenge Body if I'm going to do other songs. And it's such a weird song. It's just 2 chords. It's very much a vibe, and the lyrics necessarily aren't as important as the feeling behind them and the melody. And I love stuff like that. Like my wife and Tommy and Elijah and Gideon and I are going to go see Arctic Monkeys on Monday.
Oh, cool.
And I'm such a fan of his lyrics, and they really don't mean much. Like they're really weird. Like they've always been super weird, but always super clever and always super like, it's not as like direct as like say maybe an Elijah Johnston song, I'm obviously a huge fan of Elijah's music, but he's his lyrics like they just cut to the core, and like they mean so much to me. And like my lyrics, I don't really try anything, but it's more like stream of consciousness stuff, or like something that this line can mean whatever you want it to mean, because I might not know that day, or because it felt like something at the moment, and then years from now it feels like something else.
Yeah, something a little bit more like a Rorschach test, depending on the day and the person listening, and they can get something different out of it every time, maybe.
And I've definitely written straightforward songs. I like doing it, but I'm definitely very critical of myself when it comes to that, because I have, everyone has their own personal like breaking points. Like I don't want to like, that seems a little too, for me, like I've tried to go like very specific. It's like, that seems a little too cringy. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. That's a weird balance of wanting to be like super specific, because there's some charm to things like that. But then sometimes you try that glove on and it doesn't quite fit, and you're like, maybe I'll try being a little bit more poetic and flowy and descriptive. And then you're like, now I feel like I'm just being too heady and I'm not being honest. It's a weird balancing act, figuring out what your voice is, both your literal voice as well as your lyrical voice. But we're approaching an hour, and I appreciate you.
An hour already?
Already an hour. Yeah, we're getting pretty close. But I did have one more question before we take it over to the last 5, and that is, you said you're 36, I'm 26. If you could go back 10 years to your 26-year-old self and give yourself some advice, what would you say?
I would say, like, it's just far as making music, like, you have a budget for making a record, but you don't have to do it all in that week. Like, it doesn't have to be done. But like, I always want to just get something done so I can go back to work, or like get back to my thing. Like, this was my, when I used to make records, like it's like my vacation time, or like, this is my time to do it, and that's my only time. And I think a lot of it is just like being patient and growing your network, and knowing that like it can sit for a few months, and you don't have to get it all done now, because at the end of the day, like, once a song is done, it's mastered, and it's out there, like, that's what I get to live with and what everyone gets to hear. And like, it doesn't necessarily need to be like knocked out right then. It's a little different now because I'm a solo artist, so I don't have to like necessarily play by anyone else's rules, even though, for me, like, I want Gideon on that kit, and I want Elijah in there, and I want Tommy in there. So that means, those are some busy boys, but I'm perfectly fine with that, because I'm a busy person too. And, the songs will get taken care of when they, in their own time. And there's no rush, really.
There's no rush. It's hard to practice patience, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, Drew, let's take it over to the last 5, where the universe will ask you 5 questions and then we'll be done. When I had you on a year and a half ago now, I guess, I actually had questions prepared. And now I've been doing this thing where you pick from the bowl.
I love it.
So let's see what number 1 is.
All right, 3 Desert Island albums. So I was just given a repress of my favorite record of all time. It's called Want One by Rufus Wainwright.
I've heard of him, and I've never given him a listen.
He's, I think, one of the greatest living active songwriters, and especially his first...
Let me pull it up.
His first like 5 or 6 records, especially.
Sorry.
But Want One is this record where Rufus went into rehab for like crystal meth, and he just wrote this like double record. He was roommates with, Natasha Lyonne from like Russian Doll.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was her, because she was in rehab, and they were like roommates together. And there's a song on the record called Natasha that's written for her.
No way.
And it's just this, it's very, there's a lot of opera in his stuff. It's very poppy. It's very musical. But
it says he just released a new single called Natasha. Yeah, maybe that's like a remix.
Yeah, because it's the 20th anniversary of this record.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
But I would highly recommend the album Poses, which probably has his biggest hits. And okay. I'm a massive fan, but Want One just means so much. I mean, there's a song called Dinner at 8 that's one of my favorites, but I think you would really love that record. And then
Sweet.
The other two, Prince, Sign of the Times.
Oh, yeah.
And
I always forget, like, which one's which with Prince. Is Sign of the Times where the blue background and he's...
No, that's the self-titled sophomore record. Yeah, that's also my first ringtone when I was like 16 and they were able to do ringtones was I Want to Be Your Lover from that record.
Oh, yeah,
the one with the blue.
Rules.
In the
Sign
back.
of the Times is... Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I've seen this
that's
cover.
With, like I Could Never Take Your Place from Man, and probably my favorite Prince song, Adore.
Okay.
And I guess the third, I'll have to say Oasis, The Master Plan, which is a collection of B-sides from the first three records.
Interesting Oasis choice.
Yeah.
The B-sides
I
album.
mean, that's why I love the band, because, you know, they have their rock thing, but they can have songs with strings and they have multiple, like Noel will write the song that Liam sings, or sometimes Noel will sing. And on the B-sides, there's a lot more Noel singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love all that. And Oasis is, you know, in the UK, especially back then, they really paid attention to B-sides. Those were an important part, just like those Beatles singles. Like a lot of those Beatles hits weren't on records. Like Hey Jude wasn't on a record. They would release a double single. So the B-sides, especially back then, not Spotify, whatever, like you have one song, you flip it over. Like you're going to listen to that just as much.
Yeah.
So I think they still do treat B-sides with a little more respect across the pond than they do over here. Yeah, but Oasis, The Master Plan, Rufus Wainwright, Want One, Prince, Sign of the Times, and Joni Mitchell Blue as a four.
You snuck an extra album onto the desert. Nice.
Sorry.
Let's see what question number 2 is. That's a solid trio of albums we got.
Unexpected musical influence.
Yeah, who do you listen to that... Please don't rip it.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know they would say. I was going to do that.
Dude, that's a common theme on this show. Is people want to rip those things.
I'm just like, if I ever see a paperclip, it's going to be destroyed.
Everybody, they crumple them up, they rip them. I need to make them out of like plastic or something so they can't do
You need to get like them on balls and do like a little ball thing, and it comes
there you
out.
go. Yeah, or it could be like the lottery.
Yes, that's what. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Hell yeah, that would be sick.
But I guess I don't. I'm trying to think. Who do I listen to a lot? I this might not be unexpected, but I've been loving some Carly Rae Jepsen since the pandemic.
Sick. Yeah.
I love she's kind of like completely different, but I'm also a huge Hanson fan. But
Hanson, sick.
I love the artists who like when they break out like immediately with their bop or Call Me Maybe, and then they have essentially Fuck You Money or or Mailbox, where like they don't have anything to worry about other than focusing on their craft.
So sick.
And like even
what
like
a dream.
You always think about like Justin Timberlake or these people who start off in the Disney Club or whatever. You don't know that they necessarily are genius songwriters, but if they're given the opportunity to really hone the craft, which is like, would love the opportunity to just go in and make music every day, because what could happen if we were just given the tools to just create every day? But that Carly Rae Jepsen record, Dedicated, and then her new record, just so I'd love that shit.
Nice, dude. I need to go listen to more of her. And funny you mentioned Hanson, because the other day I heard this. It was like a year or two ago, but it popped up again. I heard this cover of my favorite band, Radiohead, Optimistic. You know that song? Mm-hmm. Hanson covered it.
Yeah.
And crushed it. Have you heard it?
I have not, but I'm going to listen to it.
I'll send it to you.
But like Hanson, the first record they released is great, but I never miss a Hanson show when I can. Like their records that they put out are like great. I'm a huge fan.
That's sick. Yeah, I need to listen to them. But yeah, their cover of Optimistic is crazy. It's like, what a deep cut for them to do.
Highly recommend the album The Walk and the album Shout It Out Loud, or Shout It Out by Hanson.
Hell yeah.
Perfect album front to back.
No skips. That's the rule. And then Tommy had an interesting question saying, do you include the album cover in terms of the perfect album?
I think you should.
Probably
I
should.
think you should.
Yeah.
Is it okay for me to say Want One, Rufus
Yeah,
Wainwright?
yeah.
I'll say that, and then I'll also say this might, it's the truth though. Hotel California. Sorry.
The album.
I know that's cheesy.
I've never listened to the album. I've never listened
so
to
good.
like the Eagles on purpose.
Well, you should. You really should.
I've held out this long.
It's so good. It's so good. My wife hates the Eagles too.
Really?
Yeah. She's wrong. You are all wrong.
You're all wrong.
And I will also say Folklore is a perfect album,
Whoa.
top to bottom. Yes.
Interesting. You got some interesting takes.
I mean, I just picked two of the most popular records of all time, so it makes me kind of a basic.
That's okay.
But that's fine.
You remind me of that guy from The Big Lebowski. In the taxi cab.
Yeah.
Whenever
my wife says the Eagles thing, it's like, you're just trying to be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't really believe that.
Right.
That's funny.
A lot of people hate him, but that's fine.
I wouldn't say I hate him. I don't know. I missed it.
Dream artist producer to work with. I guess Blake Mills.
That would be amazing. Yeah, we saw the Blake Mills show together.
Right.
That was one of the craziest shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it was amazing. And I'm not really someone who wants to go see an instrumental thing.
No, me either.
And I love everything he does. I love when he does like the pop songwriting thing, like his first two records. That's my favorite stuff. But him guitar playing doesn't necessarily like move me, but his does for sure.
Watching that show with him and Pino Palladino, and I forgot the other guy, sorry.
Sam
Gendel. Watching them play that, to me, was kind of like a watershed moment in terms of what is possible for just three musicians to accomplish on stage. Like, it's amazing the sounds they were able to get and the way they were so in sync and like were able to experiment and have this song that doesn't even feel like a song. It feels like a living, breathing like alien that's in the room.
Blake's on another level. I'm just always in awe of him, and I get so excited whenever there's anything he's a part of.
Did I ever tell you about how I gave Pino Palladino the nod at when they were recording that album?
No.
It was at Studio City, and my buddies have like a studio there, and they helped me like make some of these early songs of mine. And I was there one day, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, looks like Pino's doing a photo shoot out there. They must be doing a photo shoot for the album." And they kept talking. Eventually, I was like, I mean, it's not Pino Palladino, but then I thought, I'm at a world-class studio. Who else's name is Pino out there? So I was just like, is that Pino Palladino you're talking about? They're like, yeah, you know him. I'm like, no, not like personally, no, but he's fucking awesome. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, he's in the parking lot right now. So it's like, I think I forgot something in my car. Let me go grab it quick. And as on the way out, I saw him and I just gave him a quick little nod. I was too scared to like go up and say anything. He's so tall. And it was during that album process because I saw photos later of them when they took that photo shoot.
Notes on attachment.
Yep, notes without attachment or notes with attachment. Notes with attachment. Yeah.
I saw Pino play with D'Angelo at Tabernacle.
That's awesome.
Went with Vandenberg to that, and he also played bass on Don Henley's New York Minute, which is a classic.
And he toured with Nine Inch Nails.
That's right.
That guy has some serious
He's a legend.
resume.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
Okay, my fifth.
I think last one, yep.
In the studio or playing live, I'm going to have to say in the studio. Because there's so much nerves. Like I played last weekend.
And you crushed.
Thank you. I don't feel like I crushed. I feel like everyone crushed. I got like sick like halfway during.
You did play 3 sets also.
Yeah.
You played in 3 bands.
But I got like whatever flu was going around like I guess halfway during the first band. And so like I was just like in my head and it felt great. But it's always like I leave going like, I could have done this. I could have done this. Or I should have been a little less like I always have to remind myself like, there's no reason to be afraid. You chose to go play music. So just like accept this and like take it for all it's worth. Don't like shy away from it. And, and then I was always, get him on the next one. So then I focus on the next one. But in the studio, like that's forever. And that's something that like, those moments listening to those mixes, or like listening to a finished product alone in your car or on a walk, like those private moments, like, because at the end of the day, it's for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to have a song of mine to sing, or like just something that if I can impress myself, that's really all that I need, because I don't need anyone else to like me.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It's like discovering something new about yourself when you make a new song in the studio that feels like, I mean, this one that I sent you the other day, I've never come close to making something like similar in that style. And it's like unlocking a new part of yourself. And it is such a cool feeling when you learn that you're able to make something that blows your mind the same way, for me, like a Radiohead song would, and to be like, whoa, I can't believe thank God, with the help with Tommy Trautwein, and company.
And Ash.
Yep, that's right. Shout out to Ash again. Another shout out, back to back. But yeah, it is pretty amazing what you're able to do when you find the right people and really commit yourself to something.
Absolutely.
Well, Drew Beskin, round 2 in the bag. Thank you for coming again. On that note, everyone needs to listen to Garrett, the new EP, which is out now. It's so good. Listen to it front to back. Perfect EP front to back, if you ask me.
And I think we're playing a show together October 20th.
That's
Flicker,
right. Yes,
with
we are.
And Leighton Day.
Leighton Day? Cool,
yes.
Yeah. One of those guys who I follow on Instagram. Never met him, but there's like so many people like that.
Yeah.
Where you just know of them and haven't met them yet. But yeah, I'm excited. We're sharing the same bill. It's going to be very special.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So October 20th at Flicker, come up.
That's right.
Do you have anything in between now and then?
No, I think I'm doing that set. I play in a Tito Stone, my buddy's band. It's like a Bon Jovi thing. It's called Tito Stone, but his name is also Tito. But we write a lot of songs together, and we're getting ready to release a record of his, hopefully this year. And we have a few shows like that. And then me, it's really just the acoustic show and that Terminal West show, and maybe a show in Columbus, Georgia in November. But few and far between. So y'all don't miss it.
Don't miss it, guys. Well, Drew, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you,
I
man.
appreciate all the support you've given me, and it means a lot, and I'm excited to have you on again.
Really appreciate everything you do, and I love On the Note, and you have all my friends and heroes on here, so it's always a joy. Thank you for for the service you do. It's not everyone does that. It's a lot of energy, and can't thank you enough for opportunities like this. It makes it feel like, that it's part of this like musical community thing. And it's like this feedback and being able to like share songs with each other. It's like, that's what it's all about. Like my favorite thing is like, okay, let me hear what you're working on. And then we listen to what I'm working on. And let's talk about it. Like, I love that.
Being able to share that stuff is beautiful, and I'm grateful I get to do it, and that people actually want to come on here and talk about it, because it's
surprising.
So fun.
People don't mind talking about themselves.
Who would have thought?
Hours on end.
I know, exactly. But cool, Drew. Thanks again for coming on, man. I'll see you around. Thank you again for tuning into the newest episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Remember, not only can you listen to the episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but you can also watch the episodes on my YouTube channel, which is linked in the description below. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time.
Don't need you to be honest anymore. Don't